their work experience has been really cool.
That's cool. Is WhatsApp your like kind of favorite over Slack, or are they both kind of the same?
Hey, they're both similar. I think WhatsApp is just it's more of like a texting thing, I guess. I would say Slack is more professional, and WhatsApp would be, I don't know, because not everyone has an iPhone or not everyone has an Android, so you want to make sure that you have one common ground for everyone to message on.
Okay. All right. So the difference is like the messaging, the texting.
Yeah. But they're both effective in different ways.
Cool. Let me hear from you, Tim. Thanks, NJ, for sharing. Tim, give me some upside. What's going on?
Yeah, so basically we're hearing speakers. I really enjoyed hearing. I should know the name. I think his name is M. Floyd. I think is that the right name? I'm sorry. Correct me if I got it wrong. We did his production. I really enjoyed hearing him on Monday, and same with the one of my other favorite parts is how you guys give us all mentors. That call went long for me when I talked to him, and he's my guy's production guy out in Ohio, and considering I was only on the phone with him for 70 minutes, it feels like I don't want to be jumping the gun, but I really felt like I was like, I guess a lot of times when you're doing this creative stuff, you don't always feel when you sometimes it's hard to like talk to my parents about it or things like that because they don't necessarily like understand what the roles are or whatever, and it felt like I was talking to a much smarter version of me was what it felt like a much smarter version of me. I was like, oh man, like he was like speaking the language and all the stuff, so I like understood what he was talking about, and he was telling me some editing tips and some like whatever, and I was like, I don't know, the things that maybe I could have learned on my own, but it was way faster to hear him tell me.
That's awesome. That's what's so great about a mentor. So that's awesome. I'm going to be asking for you guys more and more to kind of give me some heads up when we start to, come together. Just because of time now, I want to keep it moving. How many of you all did your assessments? Thumbs up by show of thumbs.
That's the MBI, correct?
Yes, the MBI. Yes. So we have Shamika Brown, who is our executive coach and the facilitator, who is going to take those in Group A. And those of you all in Group A, who are you all? Maya, you want to share who Group A is?
Yep. So just listen out for your name, and when the time comes, you will be put into a breakout room to go over your assessment. Andrew Chung, Anthony Martinez, Cameron Kelly, Elena Chang, NJ Brown, Julia Alberici, Kenneth Medina, Kristen Smith, Lillian Martinez, Timothy Donahue, Zachary Holston, and Meijun Lee.
All right, so that's awesome. So what you guys are going to do when we do the split is you all are going to join Shamika Brown, and she will go over, and Shamika, you've sent them their assessments.
Yes, so for everyone who completed the assessment, thank you so much. You will receive your assessment ahead of your Wednesday session. So the 12 people who are in today's session should have received their MBI results at 12.
Perfect.
So be sure to check your spam also.
Okay, so the 12 of you all who will be going with Shamika will unfortunately miss a live version of Jessica. Jessica McGlory is going to be talking to us today about going for the win. However, we have recorded all of our sessions. So I really want you all to go back and take a listen to. Jessica will be joining us back towards the end of the summer. So you will get another opportunity to meet her when we do our mentoring roundtable. Speed mentoring, that's what I meant to say. So Jessica's just now hearing that. So I just want to fill you in that you'll be joining us again. So those of you all who think she's awesome, because she is, Jessica is coming up next. So I guess, Maya, you want to put everyone into the breakout rooms that need to go there, and then we'll do an introduction.
Yep, 1 second.
The Zoom was getting very sophisticated, I see.
Yes, it is. It is. It's a lot happening. I see Kenny. Hey, Kenny.
Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm just
Kenny, what's
P.
your daughter's name? I feel so
What?
badly because I see her, so she's
Oh,
become like a mascot. You're
Izzy. That's Izzy.
Izzy. You said what's up?
Yeah,
We
she
miss Izzy when she's not sitting behind you.
yeah,
Hey, Izzy.
she's saying hi. Yeah, she's here. Good to see all my folks on the call. I just came to dip in real quick. I'm just gonna listen in the background, and that's it. Hey, Gina.
Yeah.
Yeah, just came to check things out. That's all.
It's actually happening.
Hey, Maya, are they going?
Everybody's
I
in their
still see
breakout room
Shamika.
at this point. Shamika's over in the breakout room at this point.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
All right. So,
Take it.
and Gary's hanging out with us. Gary dropped some gems yesterday. So, okay. So let's do this. So I want to introduce you all to today's first tactical workshop at Verb. And she is a 2018, 2019, or 2019, 2000, I'm sorry, which one? 2019, 2020, where are we? I'm part fellow, which is a fellowship program that we do here at the Ad Club for mid-level professionals. We help to provide platforms so that people like Jessica, who's already a superstar when she comes to us, but we help to make sure that she gets the shine that she deserves and gets to meet those people who can help her even shine brighter and louder. So Jessica, without further ado, I would love to have you do your thing.
Awesome. Thanks, Erica. Hello, everyone. Definitely really pumped to be talking with you all today. I definitely appreciate you all coming out, especially, you know, with the different sort of racial inequality that's happening in this world right now. So showing up today really through everything that's going on is good stuff and impressive. So really claps to you. But wanted to talk about going for the win, as Erica put out there. Basically, really, this sort of session, I hope is kind of a little bit, maybe a little different than what you're used to. We're going to be doing stuff just in a slightly different style. A lot of it is going to be me trying to giving you like pretty solid advice that you can action upon, but definitely going to make sure that we get some opportunity to collaborate a little bit more. I've been told that I should just call on people at random. So I would just say that, like, if I call on you but you just really are just a shy person, I will not judge it. Honestly, I'm like the least judgmental person when it comes to that stuff. So just say, just kind of go like that, you know, like hit me with that meme, like the Drake meme, and I'll know exactly what you mean. And I'll pick someone else. So it's all good. All right. But I'm going to share my screen. Let me just pop in here. And I'm going to do the typical, can you see my screen soon? So can we see it?
Got it. I can see it.
Great. Awesome. So I'll put it in present mode. But yeah, like Erica said, I'm head of growth at Verb Energy. Verb Energy, so you know, we're a pretty new startup, only a little over 2 years old. I joined about, like, at this point, about 5 months ago, but we're a text-based energy food brand. So our big focus is on making sure that we have people feel incredible every single day. The way that we do that is starting off with caffeinated energy bars that are made from all natural, healthy ingredients, and pretty good if we do say ourselves, because they're made by our chef, who's our head of product. So I oversee all of growth, which, you know, on brand side, it's a little bit different than what it translates to agency side, but basically that means I'm like VP of performance marketing. I make sure that we get all of the different sales happening at our company through marketing channels like paid social, paid search, programmatic display, eventually podcast, TV, things like that. But for it, here's my little NASCAR slide, of course, the one with all the different logos. So these are just clients I've worked on before, or it's just kind of a snapshot. I've actually worked on a lot more, but I was agency side for a couple of years, where I got to work on a lot of awesome brands. The one thing that emerged, though, was that almost every single brand I was working on was either launching, had recently launched, or was trying to grow their D2C or e-commerce. So D2C means direct to consumer. It's pretty similar to e-commerce, except that, like, e-commerce implies that there's also likely stores. So like that you're kind of selling through a website, but direct to consumer means that you could just be selling on any sort of channel that's directly going to have someone not have to go into a store or have that impact as the main way to get revenue. So that includes me overseeing the paid social launch of ESPN Plus, which at the time was the biggest streaming service launch of all time. That got, I mean, blown away by Disney Plus. But it's the same family. It's all Disney streaming services. So they used a lot of that work for Disney Plus. So I'm pretty proud of that. But I figure, you know, like we'll be able to kind of just get right into it, like jump right into an exercise off the bat, because I want everyone feeling really great when we're going to go through the rest of this content. So with kind of getting right into it, you know, I want to give the exercise about bragging on yourself, right? So I decided to do like my first brag on myself before I'm going to have you all jump into the exercise. So that way you will feel like there's no way that you'll sound arrogant in the least, because I try to make sure to show just how arrogant or how confident I like to be. I honestly don't see this as arrogant. I see this as self-aware. And I'm hoping that I can get some of you all to just think about how you can brag on yourselves more. So mine says, I'm smart, creative thinker that has helped grow some of the best challenger brands in the industry. I've overseen over 300 million in media spend and have skyrocketed in my career starting as an associate to head of growth in under 5 years. I've done this and won top industry awards like Ad Color Rising Star and Adweek Futurist Female Award. I did this with strategic thinking, challenging the status quo, and guiding my clients to success that has made me the go-to for marketing advice for e-commerce and D2C brands. I am more than worth how much I am paid and will never apologize for my salary. My mark on the industry has already been made and I've only just gotten started. So that's kind of like me bragging on myself, some of the different things that I've done. So for the exercise, and what I'm hoping that you all will do is, you know, basically over like the next, you know, I guess I'll time it for like a minute because it's always awkward on Zoom, is just to write down as many different, like it can be sentences, it can just be words, it could be whatever just comes to your mind for the things that you think that you do really well, but say it in a way where you are just like, that you are just bragging and just letting it out as if no one would judge what you're about to say. So we'll do that over the next minute.
Jessica, you can also add to your brag sheet that you were an Ad Club fellow.
Yes, I am an Ad Club fellow in the 2019-2020 class, which is a really awesome fellowship to be a part of.
No, not to, I mean, it's competitive because there's like so many applications for only 15 spots. So
yeah, there are a ton of applications. I mean, really actually like some close friends of mine even applied and did not get selected. And so, you know, and I know that they're very, very brilliant people in the industry. So it is one that I think when people reach the mid-level in their career, it's absolutely something that is worth going after, but it's a tough one. It's tough to be able to get in. And then once you're in, the dedication that you have to have is, and focus is very important. Otherwise could get lost pretty easily. But it's been a great ride for sure.
You know what, Jessica, you just made me think about something. You should nominate some of those brilliant women. We extended the application one more week just because of everything that's been happening.
Yeah.
But you should nominate. It's pretty easy.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll talk about it offline.
Great. All right. So it's been a little over a minute. So what I'll do, I guess, I'm going to try to go to gallery view so I can see all the names here. Let's see here. So how about, sorry, like I'm literally trying to get the screen back up here. Okay, cool. There we go. How about, who's looking ready? How about Brian Lazama?
Hello.
Hello.
So I wrote down that I try to be as kind as possible. I'm really good at drawing, and I think I'm good at photography. Consider myself a bit stylish, I guess. and my own bias. I'm a good student, and I'm good at balancing work and personal life. I'm a dedicated team player, but I've also been good in leadership roles.
Nice. I love it. I love it. The thing that I would encourage you, there's no need to put qualifiers. You are good at photography. You are stylish, you know? No need to have bias towards yourself. Those are the things that you are. That's what you're repping. That's what you're going to put that confidence through. But I love the dedicated team player. I love what you're putting forth. Nice range of different sorts of qualities about yourself. That's great.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see here. How about we get, and everyone's like, oh God, is it about to be me? But how about we get Maya? So let's see here. Sorry. Solarana. Did I get that right? Great.
So I put, I'm a go-getter and ambitious. I'm a strong writer. I'm goofy and funny, and I'm unapologetically direct and straightforward.
Love it. Love that. Love that. And I got that sense from what you were saying. So that's awesome. That's great. Okay. And we'll do one more. How about we do, let's see here. Usra? Did I get that right?
Yeah, it's Yosera.
Okay, cool, great.
Okay, I wrote down, I am a freelance graphic designer that has had the privilege of freelancing at Big Agency and Horizon Group USA. I'm currently also freelancing at Alia Fitness, designing new packages to go out in the market.
Awesome, very cool, very cool. So I hope that, and that's really interesting that you've been able to do some freelance work and everything already. You know, freelance life is one that, you know, I think does come down to a lot of different confidence. So that way, you know, clients can feel able to trust pretty implicitly and explicitly. So that's really cool. But yeah, for everyone else that wrote down something, I really encourage you to keep it. Whether it's just like putting it as a note in your phone that you can always kind of look at once in a while, or however you want to do it. You also, like, if you feel like you needed a little help with some of the words that you're putting together, or like how to phrase it and everything, you know, you'll be able to feel free to ping me. I'll make sure that everyone has like all of my different contact information. And so since there's a lot, it might take a little bit longer in case everyone happens to ping me, but I'm really happy to always help out. But in terms of, let me go back to my screen here. Hopefully this works. Cool. So for the, sorry, I'm trying to get back to present. Okay, and we're still able to screen? Yeah. Yeah, okay. But basically, like, after for bragging and stuff, the thing that kind of plays into some of that and how you're able to kind of get even further in a career, like, relatively quickly, kind of comes down to another key component that you need to do, which is finding a mentor that will advocate for you immediately. Like, this is actually something that I hope that you'll do like day one that you walk into an office or whatever sort of environment that you're in, you walk into the Zoom office, I don't know, but like really try to find that mentor that can advocate. Because the earlier that you do it in your career, the more likely that you're going to be able to propel in your career. And you want to try to collect a new incremental champion each year. That means that you're keeping the relationship from the first one and then just adding more as you go. You want to make sure that they all have different perspectives and strengths. You know, like, I have mentors kind of across the board. I have one that's like has an incredible emotional intelligence and knows how to like really work with the times where I'm getting really frustrated. And then I have someone who has terrible EQ, but is really great at knowing how to grow up businesses. So I can always ask different things about marketing. You know, it really runs the gamut from across things that I need from for me as a person and what I need for like more career oriented sort of opportunities. You can find them in your office, you can find them on LinkedIn, but just do your research. You know, you need to read articles and see who speaks up. You know, there are people who are constantly like getting little sound clips speaking about like different ways that they want to help. Well, you know, like, give them the opportunity. Like, if they're saying, oh, I wish that I could help more people get in this industry, well, you know, not call them on it, but like, you know, really take them up on that challenge that they put for themselves. You know, you want to scour awards lists and see who has won or been nominated. You want to compliment them. you want to send them a note and tell them that, you know, like you really liked their work. Obviously you should mean it. Don't just like say it if you don't, but like if you really like someone's work, give them a compliment. I'm telling you, they will want to speak with you. It's like just almost guaranteed. Like people who are going out for those different awards oftentimes want that recognition and really like to see when someone looks up to what they've done. You know, now that you've bragged on yourself, you want to keep that energy. And once you've been able to create work that you can be proud of, you want to tell your champions about award opportunities that you're interested in. I'm saying this like, you know, a lot of times they will know about the different award opportunities, but won't necessarily think each time to nominate. It's just one of those things, you know, like I actually have nominated quite a few people, even in like for a series of different awards, because I realized like I'm trying to make sure that people can get what they want without having to ask, but it's still difficult to do, to remember every single time. But if they are jealous of you, you need to drop them immediately. There is absolutely no reason to keep someone who might be jealous. And like the way that you can hear some of those things are when they're just like, oh, I mean, like, really? Like, do you really think that you're like, you should win this? Like, you know, something like that, you could win this. Those sorts of words, it will hurt your career because it'll hurt you and your confidence. And that really gets in the way of how much you can progress. Your advocates should want to scream your name from the rooftops, and they should be obsessed with you elevating your name everywhere. That's just the honest truth. They should want nothing more than to see you succeed in every single thing that you do. If you have to self-nominate, there is absolutely nothing wrong with it. And it does not make you arrogant. It honestly just makes you smart. Sometimes you're not going to have that advocate or champion in place, but if there's an award that's perfect and you know that like it's something that you have a good shot at, to not do it just because, you know, you don't have someone else to nominate you is really just a disservice to yourself and to you know, like other people being able to get to know what you're able to contribute. So I'd say that. And then you should look out for award speaking fellowship opportunities like the, you know, like the Ad Club fellowship that I'm a part of. Anything that can help propel your career. It will be at different stages, what fits. There are fellowship opportunities and or award opportunities for those who are more junior in their career. There's those who are more senior, obviously. It's just one of those things of seeing what aligns when and kind of just going after it as you can. Then you're going to also want to start to look at market value. Okay, so market value is one of the most interesting, oddly sensitive topics because it surrounds money, right? And salary and benefits, and people get really clammed up about it. But, you know, I just think there are certain tips that can probably help make sure that we're helping, like, starting to narrow down some of the gaps that we're seeing in different salaries. So a lot of you probably have heard to go to Glassdoor and start to see how much money and salary amounts people are reporting for different agencies or different brands. This is a great place to start, especially if you're going to a very large agency, because then multiple people have probably submitted what they make, but it's not the best. It really truly isn't. I like to think of it as like kind of like more of this directional sort of range where you can see if you really are far off. Like if, you know, like if you're thinking, oh, I should be at like, I'm going to do really low numbers to make life easier. If you're thinking, oh, my salary should be $1,000, like, but then you go on Glassdoor and you see it's 3,000, it can help you directly understand that you're probably undervaluing yourself, right? So that's just something to take into consideration. You should start with the site so you can have a pulse on salary, but the real opportunity is with the recruiter. You know, do not under any circumstance tell the recruiter your current salary if you have one. Like, I understand that it's illegal in New York, but it's not illegal everywhere. You know, so just don't do it. And so now the reason why is because it's really irrelevant what your current salary is. Obviously, this might not apply to everyone at this given point in time, but it will after like a year or 2 years after being in the industry. And you just want to avoid it. So the question that usually has popped up instead of current salary because of the laws and everything that have come through is what's your desired salary? You know, like, so I would just definitely recommend that I will say something that I feel like not many people say. Like they just kind of tell you to negotiate it's really hard. It's super hard to negotiate, especially when first starting out, especially if you're from, you know, a background where like, you know, like it's like people who are identify as women are generally more likely to struggle with negotiation, simply because of the sort of pressures that are put on women to already have to be perfect in the sort of interview process, let alone trying to then negotiate and see what we could do there. And also, you do see less negotiation happen from those who are people of color, particularly from underrepresented groups. So when you start compounding all the reasons why it would be hard to negotiate, it becomes a lot. So the thing that I would say is, you know, when asked about desired salary, at least try to ask the recruiter about what the budget for the position is. That question, they're either going to answer it honestly or they're not. And so like at that point, if you're someone who doesn't mind negotiating, then I definitely recommend then to continue to say no, you know, like without really understanding the role and understanding like what this budget band is, I really can't say what the salary is. Keep pushing. But for those who are like, you know, that one question made you sweat and you're already like really nervous, you can't lose the confidence. Remember, you can't lose your power of bragging on yourself and being able to have that confidence going in. So I would say to just like switch it up. And you can still probably be able to get the negotiation you want. So the recommendation is to say a very high number. A good rule of thumb is to add 10K to whatever you've seen online for more junior positions, and for mid-level is 20K and senior level is 30 to 40K. The recruiter will tell you if you're stretching over the budget. So this is very key. This would be during the recruiter round. So, cause like once you get to like the manager round, that's actually a little awkward because sometimes the managers, they don't even really know what the salary range band is, but the recruiter knows because it's their job. And that's literally what to be honest, that's probably beyond what's the title and what's the job description. The budget is the third question that they're asking their client, which is the agency or company. So ask them. They will tell you if you're way over. And if they say, hey, like, wow, like actually like that, our ceiling is this, guess what you just got? You just actually found out what the ceiling and the real band for that position is. And so then you could say, you know what, I'm actually comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with that ceiling. The thing though, I want to see is there opportunity then to talk about PTO days, you know, like healthcare benefits, or certain things like FSA negotiations, relocation. Things like that will be what you'll be able to start to negotiate. But you never want to undercut your salary first. Try to get the salary as high as possible, because negotiating the other things like PTO and stuff like that is genuinely the easier thing. It's a lot easier for them to throw on more days. It's a lot easier for them to say, okay, sure, we can give this a little bit extra. That is by far, I think, one of the most beneficial things that you could be able to do for yourself is to never undercut the salary. So when you do that, then you're also going to want to look at, sorry, this went down again. Cool, it's back. So then you also want to make sure that you're going to be looking at client relationships. So as you keep going on in your career, another great way to be able to keep going up and up is through client relationships. You probably, if you join an agency, there is a very good chance, just statistically speaking, that you will leave that agency and go to another one at some point in your career. If you stay at the same one forever, then this is still not a problem. Clients come and go, so you still want to keep a relationship with them. But if you are leaving, you want to make sure that you save their email addresses before you go, and to connect on LinkedIn. You want to send them a note 30 days into your new role, telling them how it is and compliment them on something you've seen their brand has done. It could be that they launched a new campaign, they have a new product, whatever it may be. You just send them a compliment. You want to have them be able to have you be top of mind as often as you possibly can. And then if you're able to, send your former clients product of the new company you're at, or the new client that you're working with. Obviously, don't do it if they're competitors or if it would cause expense to you. But like if you have free product and it's something that you know that your former client would like, send it over to them. That sort of gesture is something that costs you nothing, but really would go a long way. And if you're in the area, ask to stop by and say hi. You'll probably get free lunch out of it, and you'll probably have a great conversation. This is really key for clients because a lot of the different clients that you've worked with are going to be the people who help you get a role of your dreams. So that's usually like one of the sort of key reasons why you want to be able to focus on this. And then I'm actually going to go back because I realized that this slide stuck. But the other thing that I think that you all should do is when looking at your resume, this is probably beyond market value. This is probably one of the slides that like, or like what some of the advice that I give that people are like, I don't know about that, but I'm telling you, if you do it, you'll go farther in your career a lot faster. So you should redo your resume at the start of every quarter. You do not wait until you're searching for a new job. The reason why you want to be able to redo your resume at the start of every quarter simply comes down to the fact that like you are adding new skills and new things that you have done, and you will forget them once you all of a sudden start your job searching. And so what you want to do is save the current form of your resume, log it, and then make a new one. Like, you know, just duplicate it, whatever you need to do if you want to keep the formatting, it doesn't matter. But like, make sure you keep that old one and then duplicate to add the new things that you've done. Did you create a campaign that helped increase revenue by X%? Did you be able to partner with a really like interesting, have a really interesting brand partnership that got the attention of all of the major ad sort of magazines? Like those sorts of things you want to be able to pop in and make sure that it's like, close up and ready to go. So then you want to make sure that you look at job postings for the following levels. So when you're looking at the job postings, what you want to do is look at the next level you desire to be in. So, you know, for me, when I was at an associate director level, that meant the next desirable level for me was director, right? So you want to look at that. Then you also want to look at the level you desire to be in 3 years from now. And then you want to look at the highest level that you hope to achieve. Being able to look at these 3 different levels is key, because when you're looking at the level in which that you desire to be in, that's going to help you start to do the framework of the things and actions that you immediately need to do in order to be able to say that you check off, you know, at least half of the different sort of requirements that job needs, right? And then you can start to build off to say, hey, okay, well, I do have this skill that they said that I need to have. I do know this program that's critical for me to be able to be at this sort of next level. And you'll actually know where you're going towards instead of just trying to just do the job that you're doing. And 3 years from now is key, because when looking out to the future, you're going to start to see that like what's 3 years from now could quickly turn into 1 or 2 years from now. That's what happened to me. I remember saying that like I was really hoping that I was going to be a director level by the time like right now. And I became a director 2 years earlier than that, because I was looking at these postings and seeing what it was that they needed, and looking beyond the years of experience and looking at the actual sort of things that they needed this person to do. And that's what I started to learn. I just started to absorb and learn every single thing that these job postings were saying that they would need for that level. And then I was able to get to that level far quicker than anticipated. And the highest level you hope to achieve is just to remember to keep, like, this one I find is interesting because like it just helps you keep the eye on the prize of like, you know, what's the biggest sort of level that you hope to get to. But also I think you'll be pretty shocked by how much that changes over time. You know, when first starting out, you might think, oh, okay, like it'd be really cool to be creative director one day. But then, you know, you flash for a few years and you're like, you know, actually I want to be an ECD. I'd like to, you know, be an executive creative director. Like, no, actually, you know, I want to be a chief creative officer. And then some might say, you know, I want to own my own shop. I want to have my own agency, creative agency that people really look to and say, wow, like the work that's being produced is amazing. And my name's on that. So there's just a lot of, you know, going after the different highest level. There'll be different things, but by looking at the job postings, it really is just so that you'll be able to see what the businesses are saying. that you need. And you can start to make sure you hone in those skills and start asking people for help to hone in those skills more. Interview for a new job at least once every 6 months. What do you want to do? So this is all I'm saying here is that you want to try to have this be an informational interview. The difference between an informational interview and like an interview that you're going after because you want the job is one that's very clearly marked to the recruiter that you're interested in the company, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're on the market to jump right now, but you get a lot of opportunity. In order to get this sort of opportunity for an informational interview, a lot of times it comes down to networking. So you want to optimize your LinkedIn. You want to make sure that it's thoroughly filled with keywords of what you're good at. So that way recruiters can find you and ask you about different interviews. And when they do, just say, hey, right now I'm not necessarily looking to leave where I currently am, but I would love to talk for an informational. And I'm telling you, they'll probably jump right on it. Because finding different talent, even in the landscape of where we're at right now, is still something that's incredibly difficult for recruiters to do. It's just one of those things. You would think it was easy, but it never actually is for them. You want to also do this because this will keep your interview skills sharp. Like with anything, interviewing is something that takes practice. It takes something that you want to keep working at in order to be able to make sure that you're going to be able to keep getting the different gigs and getting the jobs. And this will also help build a network of recruiters who can open many doors. Never underestimate recruiters or HR. They really hold a lot of the power to get what tends to be one of the hardest steps, which is getting your name through the door at all, right? So you want to keep up with the follow-up. Set a reminder to send a note saying, hey, or even better, referring someone from your network for an open role that you see that maybe you don't fit or whatever reason you don't want to apply to, at least once every 6 months. If you do this, they will advocate for you for roles in which you think are stretches or at agencies that you thought you could never dream of. All of a sudden that door is open because you made sure to keep and maintain a relationship with the different recruiters. But the last but not least one was to be you. And I know that it seems really it seems so like contrived and like dumb, but it's just so real. Your power comes from you, just straight up. Like if you're able to do some of those tactical things that I was saying earlier while maintaining yourself and maintaining what you know about you, that's so great, and bragging on yourself and really knowing what gives you the confidence to go in and just be you. You're going to be able to skyrocket in your career as well, and however that sort of manifests for you. But that was what I had put together. I'm happy to take any questions or anything that I can help with.
Okay, you guys, it looks like we've got some time to do some Q&A. I want to tell you something, Jessica. You dropped so many gems that I've almost had to, we're going to preempt some things and move them around because just couldn't feel like I could stop you, right? Didn't want to stop you. So it says that my internet connection is unstable. I hope you can hear me. And anyone have some questions? Let's see, Maya, are you able to kind of be the conductor of this?
I know sometimes it's easiest to throw it in the chat. Or there might be a question section.
Yeah, I don't see it. Normally is. Let's see. I see chat. For right now, let's see. Why don't we just, take someone off.
Questions in the chat.
Hold on. Let's see. I don't see. Okay, it's from John Shed. Thank you. No.
I think I see a couple in here.
I asked one.
Okay, let's go.
Hey, Jessica.
Hello.
So I was basically just wondering, like those of us who aren't even in the industry yet and maybe don't have like the network and all that, like what's the best way to really leverage like money and how to like negotiate just like how much you're worth when, I mean, you, I guess, don't really have a lot of work yet.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's really interesting when it's the first little job out the gate, because I mean, to be honest, that is when you probably have the least amount of negotiation power in terms of getting the foot through the door. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to take the very first bare minimum offer. There are certain agencies that literally actually do have everyone be paid exactly the same. And that's, you know, for the entry level. I'm gonna make that very specific. For their entry level sort of associate role, they try to do that for parity, which makes a lot of sense. But I still say that it is going to Glassdoor to sort of look at the position that you're going for. And if it's the first one out, and if you see very consistently, it's everyone putting $43,000, then yeah, perhaps you don't say $53,000. If it's every single one. Instead, maybe try to go in for something a little more realistic, like a $46,000 or a, like, and then see where you might net or land. And when you do that, I think that you'll be pleasantly surprised with how they might be like, okay, like, I mean, like we could do 45, like, type of thing. Yeah. So like the first one will by far be the toughest one. I wouldn't say to expect something outlandish, but I do say that after that point though, wow, it's pretty stunning how quickly you start to see this gap happen. So yeah, so for the first one, never take the very first sort of offer that comes through unless you know for a fact that's literally just what the salary is. And I would say the only way that you would know that is, I actually don't even know how you would know that. Some fellowships have it clearly stated what everyone's going to make, but otherwise you should negotiate.
Just off of like word of mouth. I mean, I've just kind of heard that, like, know the market, like know like the research. Like I'm assuming like how much you would make in New York and SF is going to be a lot higher than Atlanta. But that's just because like just the like amount that you would like just make in those other markets is a lot more than Atlanta.
Yeah, cost of living. So like Glassdoor actually lets you filter by city. So that's kind of helpful. Yeah, I know. There is like, some people are getting more comfortable with sharing their like sort of salary details. That one's still kind of a hot topic though. But if you happen to know someone that works in the industry that'd be willing to say like, hey, like this is where it's at, you kind of can go from there. But the reason why at the recruiter level, if you just simply like first ask, well, what's the range for this position? And then if they won't say it, then just say a number that's a little bit higher than what is kind of probably where it's at. Then they will have to tell you. They're going to tell you the ceiling, and then for sure what it is. So it works for every level. It's just that it's probably most beneficial 1 to 2 years out, once you're starting to get into some not higher roles, but like outside of the entry level position.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course.
I think that's great. Listen, any other questions you guys have, I will be sharing, and I've shared, if you look on the syllabus, Jessica's information, so you all can reach out to her. Jessica, is there a preferred way, if someone has questions that you would prefer to, for them to reach out to you on?
Yeah, I mean, like my preference is probably email, just because it'll be really easy for me to like, sift through. The only request I would have is if you could put ad club in the subject, so that way I can easily search and filter, kind of out through.
So what I'll do is when we do our recap, I'll send all of that information for those of you all who we didn't get an opportunity, because we're running just a couple minutes behind. So I want to give all of our guests an opportunity. Jessica, thank you so much. Or if you hang out with us, I hope you get to hang out with us. I know you're busy, but you're more than welcome to hang out. The other thing is we are going to kind of switch over our schedule. We're going to go into our up close and personal, and then afterwards we're going to come back and speak to Rebecca Rivera. I hope you guys can hang out with us, because what she is talking about builds so beautifully on what Jessica just said. So by show of thumbs up, will you all be able to hang out and do that with us? Or will you all have to? Okay, good. So it'll go to 2 today. We won't get off at 1:30, we'll get off at 2. Awesome. So I am pleased to introduce you all to an ad club member. He belongs to the advertising club, not just in name only, but in actual doing. He is a doer. He raises his hand and he is always willing to be helpful. And that is such a wonderful trait. I want to introduce Kevin Kelly, who is BigBuzz Marketing Group's President and Chief Operating Officer. Take it away, Kev.
Erica, thanks so much. And Jessica, thanks. That was awesome. I was sitting in for that, and I went up and signed up for your free bars. I can't wait till they arrive. It was very cool. But thanks to Erica and Maya and everybody at the Ad Club for putting together programs like this. It was hugely important for me to have that when I was starting out in the internships and the opportunities. So I know, this year is especially challenging and the opportunities were not as available. So fantastic. Kudos to you guys for putting this together. It's a fantastic program. So happy to be a part of it and contribute. I know you all have so many more questions than answers. So we're going to try and answer some of those questions and really want to make this interactive. So we have a deck we want to get through. Theme today is the idea that agencies are come in very different sizes and cultures, right? So we want to help navigate some of your journey towards big, small, boutique. So I have a partner in crime today, Maggie. I think Maggie is here.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, there she is. Love your pink.
Thank you. I can stand out on the Zoom, right? Nice to meet everyone. I'm so happy to be here, and it's been exciting to listen to what you're learning. So nice to meet you.
Yeah, Maggie is from one of my favorite agencies, the folks over at Deutsch. So she's joining me from Deutsch. I'm going to share my screen, just have a few slides that are going to guide the program. We're going to talk about our journey, how it relates to what you guys are going through, and then I'd really like to make sure we leave time for questions, because we're telling you what we think you need to know, but you guys really have the questions that are going to make this great. So one moment while I present her view and share my screen. And as Jessica said, give the thumbs up for the old, can you see it, thumbs up?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is Maggie and I don't know why I didn't pick a smiling photo, but that's the photo, probably wearing the same shirt today. But yeah, so pulled together the two of us. Maggie and I did some quick introductions. We're going to jump right in, and then part of this is we're going to talk about our journey, we're going to talk about size, and we're going to tell you a little of the up close and personal about our agency, some details. So this is one of my favorite slides. It is so true. I think you've all heard the term overnight success. It's just non-existent. It is not a real thing. The fact that you heard of, didn't hear of band, celebrity, agency head yesterday and heard of them today never means that they're an overnight success. The chart on the right is typically how it goes. So I think you should start out expecting that, and don't get discouraged when that is what it looks like. So my quick version of my journey was very much a squiggly line. Found out, I was a musician in high school, a drummer in a bunch of bands, loved the tech side of it. Actually found out I could go to college for that. So went to Berklee College of Music, got into the music world. I was a drummer in a couple of touring rock bands you've probably never heard of, and also a record producer and engineer. So did that for about a decade. And then the internet was, embarrassed to say, was invented. So I started BigBuzz about 23 years ago, and the internet was kind of invented, and America Online was the way to get on, and realized that I could build web pages. So this idea that I like technology and music, and now this whole new creative outlet for websites was available. I did what I highly recommend you guys do. If you think something's cool and you want to do it, I went out and got an HTML 1.0 book. I started building websites. So just dig in and start doing something if you're passionate about it. Started BigBuzz 23 years later. And again, continue the squiggly line is definitely not on the left from the starting point either. 23 years later, we are a full service integrated boutique agency of about 15 people. So with that was my journey. I'm going to pass it over to Maggie to talk about hers.
Well, I don't have any music talents like Kevin does, but I'll just give you a short synopsis of my career, which has also been a very squiggly line. So right now I head up business development for Deutsch. It's a wonderful agency here in New York. And prior to that, I led North American new business for J. Walter Thompson before it was Thompson Wonderman. That was a wonderful experience because I learned global. I learned big clients like Johnson & Johnson and big structure, but it was a cruise ship of an agency, which we'll talk about in a couple of slides about the balance of big agencies and small agencies. Prior to that, I was at an agency called Arnold in Boston and had a couple different stints in between, one at Y&R and then one at a pharmaceutical PR agency. I only lasted there about 90 days when I realized it wasn't in my soul to do that type of marketing, although great. So again, squiggly line, right? Every scenario that you find yourself in teaches you something about yourself and where you want to go next. And, I would say in this day and age, the path to success is a little bit like an step. Etch-a-sketch? I can't pronounce that. The saying, etch-a-sketch. Thank you.
Draw the knobs and then you erase it.
That's exactly right. But it's a little bit like that, right? You draw where you want to go, and then you realize, shoot, I'm doing it again. And that's what the beauty of this day and age in advertising marketing is. There's so much wonderful opportunity. There are wonderful things to learn. So that's a little bit about me. I will also say that I found my first internship, and I told this story to Kevin the other day. I found my first internship through the Yellow Pages. I don't even know if any of you know what the Yellow Pages are, but think about Google in a big book, in a big hardcover book. So I'm aging myself, but back in the day, you had to hustle in a different way than we do now online. And I had to make connections, and that's where I found businesses that I was interested in. And that's how I landed my first internship, through literally picking up the phone with a number from the Yellow Pages. So that's my story.
The best thing I would take away from that too is that idea of being open, right? Because that next turn, I thought I was going to be a rock star. I thought I was going to be a drummer and a record producer. And then this other thing happened. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go there. So just always be open to what's next. So a little bit about size. So this is kind of close to my heart, but that's big, right? That's what I was interested to find out when I went into the Ad Age Small Agency Conference, to find out that there are agencies with 200 people that were considered small. So kind of not what I'm talking about. That's a classification. 200 and up is big, 200 and down is small. I think when I say small, or certainly boutique, it's really the 15 to 50, just to put some framework around it. So that's a little reference on size. Quick about me and BigBuzz, and since I think this is originally set as an up close and personal. So like I said, started 20 years ago, and today we are a full service integrated agency. We do everything from foundational research to a full arc of services, from campaign development, media strategy, media planning, buying. But we still are very rooted in technology, which is where I started. We were really originally a web dev company for the first decade or more. So we were building websites and winning awards, building stuff that spun around and flashed and had video and green screen. So I always loved the technology part. And one of the things I'm most excited about is a new service vertical for us, which is conversation design. We're now doing AI conversation design for chatbots and voice experiences. So my favorite project right now is we're working with Hard Rock, developing their chatbot named Eve, as well as their Alexa in-room voice skills. So that's fun stuff. Happy to answer any questions when we get to Q&A about what we do. And I'm going to pass it over to Maggie to talk about Deutsch.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, Deutsch is super fun. We have great clients like Budweiser and Reebok. And I think what we pride ourselves on, we have this notion called the never before, and it's really about pushing the envelope and looking at every opportunity we have with clients in new and different and really modern, innovative ways. In the last 2 or 3 years, we've amped our technology offering. You know, in this day and age, technology, AI, really digital innovation is at the forefront of all of marketing and advertising. But here's what I'll say about Deutsch, and I think this is important no matter what size agency that you're looking to look at, to work at, to research. The people and the culture are so important. And I love Deutsch because it's a family. And I know you hear that and you think, is that really real? It's real. It is a thing, right? And we rely on each other. We respect each other. We help each other as human beings first. And I think, you know, it's interesting. Kevin's shop is, you know, quite small. I actually think of Deutsch as, even though it's big in this context, it's actually still the perfect size for me because you can know everyone, you can create those human connections and really foster those relationships that create better work. So the best thing that I love about Deutsch are the people that I work with, and I really love them and rely on them, and they make my career. I mentioned JWT a couple minutes ago, and I'll just give you a beat on that as sort of contrast. As I said, JWT was a huge global behemoth, 10,000 plus people, right? Really, really fascinating to navigate and learn. That also gives you skills that you can't get at an agency the size of Deutsch or at a boutique agency like Kevin's. That will give you breadth, that will give you exposure to different types of clients. But for me personally, I love the connections with the people. I love having a small agency where you can wear many hats, and our structure at Deutsch gives all of our team members that opportunity. So take a look at our site, deutsch.com. And again, happy to ask any questions as we move forward.
What is your headcount and office? You have 2 offices and rough?
Yep, so we have 2 offices, one in LA and one in New York. We have 242 in New York. And right now we have about 380 in LA.
Nice. Well, cool. Well, we want to keep everybody awake. So we want to throw up a poll if that happened to be, I think Maya was going to see if she could make that happen. Are you there? Look at that. Okay.
Oh, is she back?
Look at that. She is fantastic. So just a few questions to help us understand things that might be things that you consider to help create an initial match. Maybe maybe I should try this first, or maybe I should try that. So some of the things that we threw out there, I'm going to take that as well. So let's just take a couple of minutes and go through these questions and see how it comes out. Give it another 20 or 30 seconds. And then Maya, I'm not sure if you can display the results or how that works. Tell me if I need to relinquish.
Hey, Kevin, we have a new producer. Unfortunately, Maya got kicked out of Zoom. So Ines is helping us right now. So
thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ines.
I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a minute to see if it makes it easier for you to put up some results. Not sure how that works, actually. I've only used poll once or twice.
Okay. Mostly everyone voted.
Okay. Ah, look at that. So first question was really focused on the idea that in a bigger organization, you may not be able to touch so many brands. You know, you very often get assigned, and I don't want to speak out of turn and Maggie chime in here, but you know, you may get assigned a single brand and stay on that brand forever. Certainly in a smaller boutique agency, you're going to work on half or everything, you know, so you're going to work on a few different things and you're going to get that diversity of work. Maybe, you know, maybe fun. Maybe some of you like to really dig in and stay focused. So looks like there was a more, you know, bigger focus on getting a lot of different types of work. Yeah, and kind of reinforced by the second one is the flip side. Yeah, moving quickly. You know, I think that's what we're very much used to based on society and culture today. It's fast, it's short. You know, moving around is something that we're very used to doing. Gaining access to many veterans. Yeah, that's something you're going to get in a bigger agency. You know, we'll have very often when there's 15 people, you've got 2 or 3 folks that have deep years in the industry. So you definitely can get access to more folks at a bigger agency. You may not get the individual mentorship that you could get at a smaller agency. So that's what that one was geared toward, and nice to see that everyone is interested in that as well. This is one that I hadn't thought of that came up through conversations and preliminary research for me is that, you know, yeah, you can rise pretty quickly. And if that is one of your goals or if that is kind of who you are, you can find yourself with access to a leadership position pretty quickly. Honestly, you know, in some cases that can happen in a big agency too. Bigger agency, more opportunities. So, and it's interesting that Maggie mentioned knowing everyone is important, and that's something that she can do with 200 plus people. And, you know, that's definitely a consideration and something that I guess is more attuned to what your personality really seeks out and how you could interact with many other people. It was funny, Alex Boguski, I talked to him years ago, and he's still a friend I chat with when he's not dirt biking, said when his agency got above 100 people, he felt like that was the last time he could really know everybody. And there's a term called century, which really, it meant, you know, how many people could be in a group and work as a group. I don't know, you know, but that one seems like that was a little bit spread out. Being part of something bigger, I think that may be indicative of, you know, where you could end up. There's the big university, small university, athletics, or, you know, clubs or camp, things like that. And so kind of pretty even split on large and small university. You know, you guys went through probably a pretty rigorous process when you picked your university. So that could be indicative of the type of culture you might want at an agency. So thank you for that participation. We'll keep moving. So one of the things that, so I talked to a few people, and I have a friend at Forays who mentioned this, that, you know, there's an opportunity to go a little wider at a smaller agency. So you can jump around from departments. I know you guys had some conversations about departments. I think that's really important for you to understand, you know, creative versus accounts versus interactive versus new business. So, and there's so many different departments to consider. So, you know, you may have more of an opportunity to go wide, but at a larger agency, I think there's a real opportunity to go deep in the particular department that you're in, learn tons from, again, senior veterans down to, you know, new folks that you'll be working alongside of. We did found a couple people that one was an ex-buzzer and one is a current Deutscher. So got some insight from them on their journey, and I want to share that with you guys.
I've worked at both big and small agencies, actually lasting less than a year at a big agency before I realized it wasn't a good fit for me. Reason being that I'm at a smaller boutique agency and that I love it is that not just, you know, I feel like I have the opportunity to have more leadership roles and ownership, but also the ability to work across multiple departments. Inherently, at a small agency, you have to wear a lot of hats. And if that sounds exciting to you, then maybe a boutique is right for you.
Hey everyone, I'm Philip. I'm an assistant account executive at Deutsch, and I work on Michelob Ultra. And 2 years ago, I worked at Deutsch actually as a digital production intern, which is not what I'm doing now because I realized that I did not like digital production. But I think that's what's great about working at a sized agency like Deutsch, is because you're exposed to so many different departments. That's actually how I met Maggie, was because, you know, I was exposed to creative and production and strategy, and I was kind of interested in new business. So I kind of reached out and just said, hey, would love to grab lunch with you. That ended up, or that conversation actually letting me end up at Deutsch for 2 more weeks. And then Maggie reached out and was like, hey, you want to work for me in the spring? And I had the opportunity to work underneath her for 4 months. And it was such a great experience, learned so much. And I realized, okay, I was right. I didn't love digital production, but I do love new business. And that eventually led me to have conversations with people from the account team and realized, oh, maybe this is something that I wanted to do, which is how I kind of fell into my role today. And I absolutely love it. And I wouldn't have had that exposure and opportunity if it wasn't for Maggie and it wasn't for networking within the size company that Deutsch is. And then the other great thing I love about the agency is, you know, there's enough people where you're learning all the time because you're constantly meeting new people, but also there are enough familiar faces where, you know, if you walk to a meeting or you're walking to the coffee bar or wherever you are, like there are people that you can have conversations with, make friends with, but you're constantly learning and growing. So that's why I love Deutsch. I love the people, I love the work environment, I love the culture, but I also think there's so many great networking opportunities and events that we have. And just from my personal experience, I could not say enough great things.
I paid Phil to say those nice words about Deutsch. No, but I think, I'm not certain if you guys were able to see the video of those two, but you heard their stories. And I think just to underscore what Phil was saying, he bopped around to a few different departments before he figured out what was good for him. But I think what's most important about what he did and how he came to me and how he and I are very close colleagues now is that he had a curiosity and he leaned forward and seeked out different opportunities versus what he was just handed, right? He was handed digital production. And instead he said, not feeling it. I'm gonna walk around, I'm gonna network even in the hallways. It doesn't matter if it's 15 people or 1,000 people. Find your people and have them help you and they will lead you down the right path.
Absolutely. And sorry, yeah,
Okay.
I think you guys missed the video.
That's Phil. That's Phil. It looks like he has a play button for his mouth right now, but that's
yeah. Okay, well you can see it now, and I hope you could hear it. Okay. Yeah. Well, Maggie, while you're on, I'm gonna, next couple of slides were things that you had mentioned. Whoops.
Yep.
This idea of the big fish in the small pond and vice versa definitely applies here.
Absolutely. And you know what? Alexa said it in the chat, and I think it's very true. Finding people, finding your people, finding people that have your same values. But I do think that it's, as you map out your next steps for agencies, really do think about, the size. Are you a person that wants to be a bigger fish in a smaller pond and have, sort of more of that ownership? Or do you want to be in a big ocean and have that, like I was saying about JWT, have a little bit more exposure to different things? So really be honest with yourself about what's going to fit your personality. And Kevin, if you go to the next slide, there are pros and cons when you end up choosing a bigger agency or a smaller agency, which is what we're talking about. And this is what I feel is important to recognize. In this day and age, people that are unicorns in marketing get the best jobs. And what I mean by a unicorn is that you are curious about learning new skills. You are curious across different mediums. You love social, but you also love experiential. You're interested in media, but you're super interested in tech. You lean into data, right? Like, how do you use all those things? If you can span a handful of different skills and interests and be a unicorn, you're going to get every job. I guarantee that, right? Small agencies, in my opinion, give you a little bit more of an opportunity to become a unicorn because you have to wear different hats. Bigger agencies, again, allow you to go deep into a client, deep into a department like account service or tech or whatever, but you end up being sort of like a pigeon, right? You end up being pigeonholed a bit as, oh, that's just the account guy, or that's just the producer, right? So pros and cons, right? Go wide, have more exposure, go deep and be the expert at it. I like unicorns, but pigeons are cute too. So there's my analogy.
Yeah, and I think yesterday when we were talking, you talked a lot about that, finding your unicornness. Like what is, where do your passions lie? With me, it's technology. It's new things. I love new. New. What's the next thing? Right. That's why our tagline is "What's next." So I'm always about, that's great, thanks, but what's next?
That's exactly right.
And that's AI, conversation design. For me, it's like a whole new palette to get creative on. So always be looking for that unicornness and sell it. To Jessica's point earlier, it's like sell what you're passionate about. Don't be passive about it. I'll tell you the one thing that about new buzzers that come on board, either as interns or new hires, those who speak up get noticed, get involved, get promoted. We do have our quiet brilliance, sometimes in the devs or the UX folks, but and that's fine for them, I guess. But there's never a downside with speaking up with something thoughtful, well-researched, relevant, and certainly if you have passion about it. So, and it's unique, most folks are quiet, and I'll get off the soapbox in a minute, but the last thing I'll also say about that is, be able to articulate your thoughts in a written form. Also somewhat unique. It's not a basic skill for folks coming out of college anymore. So being able to say you have an idea, present it, and someone shows interest in a meeting, follow up with, well thought out written email or document, and keep it short, concise, but well written.
Absolutely.
And then we'll just wrap up a few other thoughts, and we really want to get to questions. I think it's most important that you guys get access to us for, ask us the things that we didn't think to present that are on your mind. But I just did want to circle back, and so I want to hear from Maggie about Deutsch. But we are in 3 or 4 basic departments. We have our creative department, which also has our design and UX folks, an accounts department. So the head of accounts, account executive, coordinator. That's kind of the whole department. We've got one of each. And I am new business. We do have a full complement of web development, back-end folks, and I feel like I'm forgetting something, but yeah, that's kind of it, and then we have the back office finance. So it's a small group of departments. Maggie, you guys probably have 12.
We have a lot. We have production, we have media, we have creative, we have strategy, we have tech.
I forgot media. How did I forget that?
Design. We have new business, obviously, what I do. But, I think what's interesting is that, as I think the theme of this chat over the last, 20 minutes has been, having a myriad of people that can come together and help each other, right? So at Deutsch, it doesn't really matter what department you're in. Everybody can have a great idea, and everyone wears a lot of different hats. So,
yeah, I think it might have been Deutsch was the first time I heard, and this, I've heard it a lot, but it might have been Val who said, good ideas can come from anywhere. Who I heard it first, right? I mean, you've heard it from everybody says that they were the first ones. But yeah, I mean, the great agencies believe that and live that. So if you're in a meeting and it's accounts meeting and you've got a creative idea and it's good, it should get heard.
Absolutely.
And yes, media. Oh my God. So how did I forget media? Media is an example at a small agency. So media is, digital media, social media, digital content strategy, all that is kind of under media. So if you're at a smaller boutique, you might be able to touch a bunch of things under the singular heading of something like media. Intern versus job, you may want to, this might cause you to make a different decision. So an internship, maybe you want to survey it all, and get little, or see what big is like and go big. So internships and job considerations may be totally different. So that's something that I think I want to make sure you guys are thinking about. And then lastly, and I really want to get some questions, unless Maggie, you have something else, is just no right answer. It's about the right fit. That's kind of what we're here today to help you guys figure out. Also, I know you guys are probably last couple of years, but you're here doing this, so you guys are already in the right game. You get that how important internships are. So Maggie, do you have any things to sum it up? Otherwise, I would love to open it up to questions.
Yeah, just real quick. I'll just say something that I put in the chat real quick. Someone asked, what do you look for when you're looking at opportunities, right? And for me, positivity and passion. Everything else you can learn. Be authentic. Go towards the things that you're really passionate about, and stay positive, especially in this time. But stay positive. People want to work with people that make them better and make them be more creative. So.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Maggie. We have another
You're
question
welcome.
here from Alexa Fazino. She wants to know, do you think the position you want changes the sizing of the company you should be a part of?
I'll take that. Yeah, I think, that's actually a very smart question. And here's why. So all positions are not equal. And what I mean by that is if you are a media planner, right? Media planning at a big agency, let's say like McCann, that is a machine, right? You will learn every single solitary thing that you need to know about media planning and buying down to the minutia detail. If you're at a small agency and you're a media planner, you might not have access to the same technology. You might not have access to the same data stacks. You might not have access to what a large agency has in terms of the infrastructure. So it might be a little bit more of a not as robust learning ground. I think from an account standpoint, smaller is better because you have more direct contact with the client at lower levels, right? Technology is another one, right? You might want to go work at Google, who's not going to learn everything at Google, but you might want to go work with Kevin and help him build his new tech stack, right?
If you're
So I
tech
think,
geek,
yeah.
maybe you're the unicorn at BigBuzz, right? As opposed to one of the
exactly
awesome
right.
herd that is at Google.
That's exactly right. So I think it's a great question and something to really think about as you hone what job you want. Really research the companies and understand what they're able to offer you from a foundational learning standpoint.
I have a question for you, Maggie. It comes from
Yes.
Cameron Kelly. Can you describe your experience of your first day working at a big agency like Deutsch?
Oh my gosh. Actually, it's funny you ask because this Saturday, June 13th, it will be 4 years at Deutsch, my anniversary. It's also my wedding anniversary, so I can never forget that day. I'm very blessed.
You started a
on
job
that
on your
day.
wedding anniversary?
I did.
Come on.
I started a job on my wedding anniversary.
Dedication.
Exactly. I love this question. So my first day, and actually mirrored my first day at JWT. I was at Arnold for 100 years, so I don't remember my first day there. But what I did, I already knew people, a handful of people, obviously, going into the job. But what I did was I walked around to every single solitary person that I could meet that first day. I introduced myself. I told them what I was all about if I hadn't met them yet. I asked them what they did, right? It's really starting to put a face and the human connection onto this new family that I had just been, introduced to.
Yes.
So that was my first day, and I would recommend that for anybody.
Alicia, you need to mute. Let's mute Alicia. That's funny. I'm sorry. I hope that didn't throw you off, Maggie. Were you
totally fine? Totally fine.
Because we've got a great question here from Sam. Sam says, if you do end up getting a job at a smaller agency, is it more difficult than to get in a bigger agency? And second part is, would one have to take a step back or a demotion in order to get their foot in the door at a bigger shop?
That's a great
Kevin,
question.
you want to take?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely for both of us. So, I mean, odds are you're going to probably look for opportunity, not be seeking out a big agency or a small agency, I'm guessing. So the right opportunity will present itself. Do I know whether there are more opportunities at little or bigger? Yeah, I don't know. Just by sheer numbers, I think the bigger agencies may have more opportunities. So, is it harder? Yeah, that's tough. And I think you're gonna just really go for the opportunity and make sure we talked about this before, but make sure that find out as much as you can from Glassdoor or others that have been there, and look into the programs that they have. Find out what the culture and the heart of that agency really is. It's just as important. But I'll throw the big entry over to Maggie.
Yeah.
Okay,
I also think.
Go ahead.
Just one real quick add to that. I think back in the day, having your name or having your resume have names like JWT or Ogilvy or whatever, that was super important. And if you walked in with a resume that said, I work at, Joe Schmo agency, they'd be like, whatever. I don't think that's the case today. I actually think that small boutique agencies are super interesting to bigger organizations. And I think it's all about networking and the people that you know. So, and again, your passion and positivity. So.
Yeah, I'll add to that. Same thing with university, college. It's so much about the person. I guess there's an initial reaction, and when I see an agency, I guess there is an initial reaction, but it's so much about how you present what you know, what you did at the agency, how you frame. I was an account person, or I worked on this account, I helped it grow, I did things of substance as opposed to just listing it. So it's how the entry is listed rather than just the names. So I think I'd agree.
Yeah, that makes sense. We've got time for one more, and I see Ali, you had your hand raised. Did you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you, Kevin and Maggie, for that amazing presentation. It's interesting that you raised the point about unicorns. And as someone who's either early in their career or looking to make a transfer to the agency world if they don't have that experience, I found that especially with HR, if you were coming off as a unicorn with a diverse set of experiences, you can come off very unfocused. So how do you balance that, where you present that you can do very specific tasks, but also show your diverse experiences?
I think that's a really good point, and is sort of the other side of that coin from a unicorn standpoint. What my recommendation would be is that as you're talking to recruiters, HR people, and as you're putting together your resume, think about what your story is. So even if you have 4 or 5 different positions that you've done, or 4 or 5 different skills that are maybe very diverse, but want to ladder up to one bigger story, and that top of your resume, when you really write that like statement that will catch people, codify it in that statement, right? So use the diverse nature of your experiences to your advantage, and really think about your resume as your storybook, right? Think about your resume as that first page of the book that you open, that the HR person or the recruiter is going to immediately know what you stand for, right? And I think Kevin said it too, but it's really just all about, how you sell yourself.
That's a great way.
Try to use it to your advantage.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. What is your story? Because there's value certainly to diverse experience and knowing a lot of different things, but there's certainly value in that depth, right? So it's funny, I think it was Nick Law told me this first, the idea of the T-shaped creative, or actually the T-shaped person, which is this idea that you have knowledge across the entire business. You understand a little bit about each. What's that T? What's your depth, right? Is it copywriting? Is it design? Is it new business? And for me, my story really always lived at the intersection of creativity and technology. So that was kind of my segue from music and technology to web and advertising and technology. So I think that's a great way to find your story and tell that story. And frankly, that would be a much more interesting resume to read.
Yeah, I think so. And we see it. Listen, guys, Kevin, Maggie, thank you. Thank you so much for taking time.
You're welcome.
This together to talk to these interns who have met their fate during a time of COVID-19. And yeah, and rebellion and all types of things that are happening. So I think, to your point, you know, you all give some amazing takeaways. Be open to what's next. So today we talked about going for the win, and then we talk about where to go for that win, right? Do we go to a smaller or do we go to a larger? Before we get into how to make yourself really that person that everybody wants to talk to, let's take a quick second where we stand up, shake it out, because these Zoom calls are crazy. So I'd love to see everyone just stand up, because my Fitbit told me I had to stand up. Stand up, I can't see, guys. Oh, yes. And then, yes, let's shake it out. And let's get ready to invite Rebecca. Rebecca Rivera is amazing. Rebecca's that professor. I love it, Sam. That's exactly what I need to be doing. Rebecca is the professor that loves to see her students succeed and created something for them to succeed. Where are you, Rebecca? Do I see you on here? Rebecca is
I'm here.
Oh, awesome.
I'm right
I'm gonna let her introduce herself to you all, but I just wanted to say that I just met this woman, and she's amazing, and Save the Internships New York is an amazing opportunity for each and every one of you all. So Rebecca, you got it.
Thank you so much. So I'll share my screen shortly, but for those of you who don't know me, I am an ad professor, but I'm an ad professional. I'm a copywriter and creative director who spent my careers in agencies big and small and have been a freelancer. And I've been in your shoes, students. I've been, you know, just where you are in a market that is not a great one to be entering. So what I want to talk to you about today, I want to bridge off of what the other speakers have shared. I want to talk to you about bragging on yourself, but I want to talk to you about how to do it concisely. And that will have to do with building your personal brand, right? I want to say that what Jess said about mentors and having more than one, absolutely true. I encourage you to think of your mentors as your personal board of directors, and you wouldn't want to have them all be the same. So find several of them, not too many that it makes you crazy, but think of them as, I want this person for this and that. They're your personal board of directors, and you go to them with specific asks that their expertise is good for. I could do an entire talk on salary transparency and negotiation. And I want to tell you that there is an art and a science to it. And I want to tell you that just because you're juniors does not mean that you should not negotiate. And Aaron, who's my mentee, I see him here, we're going to talk about it in depth. And Erica, if at some point you want to do a workshop, I'd love to do it, because as Cindy Gallup says, you should all make a shit ton of money. And the only way to do it is to negotiate for it.
Absolutely.
Okay? So I've got lots more to say, but we won't talk about that today. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you real quick, because I put together a little deck, which I will share with all of you as a PDF so that you have it. Okay.
And we can do that recap, so they can get it from the recap if you want to do it that way. And you can also find this, or you can also put this on your website.
Absolutely. Okay, so to introduce myself a little more formally. So I'm Rebecca Rivera. I'm an ad pro turned ad prof who makes ideas happen. I want you to remember the way that I describe myself, because you see I'm bragging on myself a little bit here, but it's very short. It's very concise. So we'll come back to that. All of my contact information is here, and I encourage you all to connect with me. Okay, we're going to talk about personal branding, and that phrase sometimes sounds very cheesy and uncomfortable, right? But I want you to think about personal branding this way. It's just how you show up in the world, specifically professionally. Okay, now, number one pro tip, which Jess was talking about, is be who you are. Absolutely be authentic and be real, whatever that means to you. Okay, so in order to do that, you really have to think about who I am. And many of my students, I work with them to help them craft a resume, craft an elevator pitch, and so on. So I'm going to actually give you a little exercise to help you really distill who you are, okay? I do want you to absolutely brag on yourself, but I want you to do it in a way that is concise. And I'm sure you all have heard the term elevator pitch, right? Okay, and there's a reason why it's called an elevator pitch. And it is how much time it takes you to tell someone something from the time you get into the elevator until the time they get off. And I've had this experience many times dealing with, you know, creative directors, clients, and so on. You've got an important piece of information, you have a short period of time to tell them. So here are some sample elevator pitches that I helped my students craft. Junior art director seeking social justice and a paycheck. Strategist who can't stop asking why. Entrepreneur, filmmaker, rewriter. And that one is for a student who just got hired, by the way. Ad PR student obsessed with hoops. Okay. Elevator pitches must be short, and there's a way to get to them. They're not easy to do. I'm a writer, and I'm telling you they're not easy to do, but there's a way to get to them. And I know a few of my students who are on this call will recognize the method. Okay. So I'm going to give you a simple method. You can create your elevator pitch in 4 simple steps. And again, I will share this deck so you can do it. And it only takes 5 minutes. You can do it many times over, but it takes 5 minutes. So here's what you do. You grab 10 sticky notes. You write 1 word per sticky note, just the way that Jess had you sort of free write 1 word per sticky note, bragging on yourself, talking about your qualities. So 10 sticky notes, you spread them out in front of you. Now you apply what's called the STAR method. And I see some of my students, I see Alexis there nodding, they know the STAR method, right? Now what you do, you spread these out and you substitute. So you take 1 word away, you write a new one, put it in. Maybe you take a few out. Maybe you add something, you rearrange, but you force yourself to do this in 5 minutes, and you have to end up with a pitch that's 10 words or less. I promise you, if you do this a few times, you're going to come up with a few elevator pitches. And I encourage you not to feel like you have to settle on one. Come up with a few and then try them out on friends. Try them out on colleagues. Try them out on, you know, your mentors. This is a really easy way to get your elevator pitch. And if you use this discipline, it will help you get there. So most essential part of this is what Jess was saying, be who you are. Okay, so you're seeing here my friend Sarai Perez. Now, Sarai is a graphic designer. She's an athlete and she's a model. Everything that she does, every place you see her represented, she brings her own flavor. I want you to remember this picture because you're going to see Sarai later. But the most important thing is this is really an essence of who she is visually, okay? Now, here is, I skipped. Here is a creative director who loves the outdoors. So she often uses images like this, okay? She's being who she is. Now, the question is always, how far do you go when you come as you are, when you are your real person, okay? So some people would say that this is not something that you should have on social media, right? That this might be too far. I would disagree. I believe that showing up as your whole person with all of your interests, everything that really gives someone a sense of your flavor is important. So these days, employers are not interested in hiring people who show up as corporate drones, who sound like everyone else. You just heard the speakers talking about being a unicorn, okay? The reason you want to show up as who you are is, first of all, it makes you feel better. Second of all, it helps you find the people who will be attracted to you for the right reason. Imagine if you show up as a corporate drone, right, without any very specific interests, and you get hired as that person. You start the job, but you're not a corporate drone. You're going to hate the job. Your employer is going to be surprised by all your personality. So always show up as who you are. And one of the main benefits of doing that is it helps you find your people, okay? Whether you're a dog person, whether you are a cat person, whatever kind of person that you are. I had a creative director walk in to an agency with a, dolly full of his stuff, and he put it all up. His office was right next to mine, and he had a turntable, and he put on all of this heavy metal. And it wasn't necessarily the kind of music that, everyone in the agency would like, but my husband happens to love it. I was able to find someone whose creativity intersected with mine. You always want to work with people who are attracted to you for the things that make you you. And employers want people who are different, because diversity is not just ethnicity, gender preference, socioeconomic. Diversity is diversity of thinking, and diversity is what leads to innovation. Okay, so let's keep going. Now, when you're out in the world, the reason I'm showing you all these visuals is we live in a very visual world, right? And everywhere you go, there you are. And you have some visual representation of yourself, okay? So I want to talk to you about being discoverable. And we are all needing to be discoverable on social media, right? That's how we get people's attention, especially these days, because we're living in this virtual world. So you want to be discoverable on social media, but you want to know that all of the different platforms that you're going to be on are not going to be the same, right? So you got to read the room. Every single platform where you will be sharing your personal brand will not be the same. So I want to talk to you about how to read the room. I work with my students all the time to give them pro tips of how to use these different platforms, okay? So I want to talk to you about LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Now, everyone doesn't have to be on all of these platforms, but I want you to understand how you bring your personal brand to each of these platforms, what's the purpose of being on these platforms, and how you might want to tune it slightly, okay? So let's talk about LinkedIn. So many of my students don't understand the purpose of LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a virtual water cooler. It's a place where people talk about shop, okay? You still want to show up as who you are, but it's where you talk shop. So you talk about, what's the best portfolio site? What's the difference between this kind of writer, that kind of writer? What kind of conference should I be attending? It's where you see job opportunities and internships. And when you weigh into the conversation, if you have a good LinkedIn profile, whatever you're saying has more credibility. This is part of your personal brand, to have credibility within whatever the platform is, okay? So let's start with the basics. I can't tell you how many times I see someone's profile picture and it's not a picture at all. It's some kind of avatar or it's nothing. And that makes you look like a bot. And I guarantee you an employer or recruiter is going to immediately go to the next profile if they don't see that you understand that you need to have a current, friendly, identifiable photo, and you want to have a descriptive, searchable headline, okay? Because people will be looking for students, copywriters. People will be looking for your school because they'd like to hire people from your alum. So this is the starting point for your profile. This is part of your personal brand. And this would be your elevator pitch here, okay? Now, I have a few different profiles that I've shared here for you to look at later. And these are from former students who are now working in the industry, and they've been working in the industry for less than 5 years. And these are people who I've mentored. And I want you to notice they are not just using the default visual that LinkedIn has, right? They've written a little about section, okay? You don't have to do a lot, but you want to show that you understand what goes on here and your place in it, okay? Now here is Sarai, okay? So we saw Sarai earlier. Now, this is still Sarai having her flavor, but it looks slightly different, right? Her elevator pitch might be slightly tuned, a little less personality, okay? But you see, she's a graphic designer, so she's making sure this looks really beautiful, okay? So keep in mind what each of the platforms can do and how you should appear on it to really build your personal brand. Okay, now a lot of students don't use Twitter. I want to try to help you understand why you might want to consider it. Twitter is an all-access pass to news, to friends, and trends in your industry. One of the most powerful ways you can use Twitter has nothing to do with you saying anything. It has to do with listening. This is an incredible way to find out what's trending in your industry, even if you never tweet at all. Okay? Now, I want you to think about, students sometimes don't know who to follow. I want you to follow your passions as well as people. I want you to follow what you care about in real time, whatever it is, whether it's advertising, PR, design, social justice, news, music, jobs, okay? And that's how you will get some utility out of this, okay? Now, what do you do about your profile, right? I want you to look at these two profiles, okay? And I want you to understand that Twitter is, you need to think about it in terms of followers versus influence. Now, there's a lot of influencers with a lot of followers. This is Justin Bieber. He has 112 million followers. This is Kenny Thacker, who I think had to jump off. He has 1,332 followers. Justin Bieber is just famous. Kenny Thacker is influential. So when you're choosing who to follow, consider it's not about followers. Now, when you're considering what your profile should look like, look at your idols, look at the people who you respect, like Kenny, like Erica, and so on. See, what do they say, right? So you see there's all kinds of personality in here. He's also talking about what he's associated with. Let's look at a couple of profiles. Let's look at this profile. So this is Jose Frisson. And Jose was recently hired by Pereira Odell as a design intern. I want you to notice his profile, okay? It's very short. It's got a lot of personality. He says, was I ever dancing with an android named Lupe? What the heck does that mean? That tells you something about something that he cares about. And anyone who understands that, he just said, my people, you will recognize me. But what he also did was he links to the platform where he really spends most of his time. And in order to give you more information about himself, he pinned a tweet. So pinning a tweet means just that. You choose one tweet that says something about who you are. So he says, design is the way in which we integrate art principles into every part of our society. So altogether, on this profile, he's told us about his interests. He's told us what his role is, right? Design, clearly, graphic design. And he pinned a tweet to tell us more. When you're thinking about your personal brand, you have to think about all the places it will live and all the different versions of the ways that you will tell your story. Okay? So let's keep going. So I'm gonna just tell you, I feel an eye roll whenever I say Facebook. Most students I know are not on Facebook, and I totally get it. But I want to tell you two reasons why you should be on Facebook, in spite of the fact that probably all your grandmas are on Facebook, okay? Reason number one, she's a grandma and she's a recruiter, one of the most influential recruiters in the industry. A lot of grandmas are recruiters. They're most comfortable in Facebook, and that's where they go looking for young people to hire. If you're not on Facebook, that's the first place they'll start. Believe it or not, they might not make it over to LinkedIn. Chances are what Francesca does is she asks me, hey, Rebecca, I'm looking for some students for an internship, or I have an entry-level job. And then I make the reference to her. The easiest way for me to do that is to point to your Facebook profile. So believe it or not, there's a ton of recruiting that goes on Facebook. And if you're there, they can immediately get a sense of who you are, and who you are needs to reflect your personal brand. Here's the second reason, Facebook groups. If you're not already part of Facebook groups, if your school has a Facebook group, you should be on that page. And the reason is a lot of stuff is shared there. Just recently, Lynn Applebaum, who heads up the PR program at City College, She posted this. It's at 45 places to find communications and PR jobs. Jobs, links to internships, resources are constantly posted on these group pages. Here on May 21st was a post for a specific job that was open, and I've seen many. There's also on these Facebook pages all kinds of community. So for instance, for anyone who is a creative, there was this wonderful post about why your art sucks even though you've been in school for a few years, why it's still not at that level. So Facebook is useful because it's where recruiters can find you. It's where you can find internships and job leads, inspiration, and community. But you have to think about how you're going to express your personal brand, okay? So here's a Facebook profile. As I've said for all of these platforms, the most important thing you can do is not look like a bot, okay? Have a picture that's identifiable, but that shows your personality. The way that you depict yourself visually says everything about your brand, okay? Make sure that you include your interests, your values, your affiliations, because you want clients, you want agencies to hire you for the right reasons. As I said, all of these things signal to them who you are, and you want them to hire you for who you are because you will be happiest and so will they. So I see there's some questions and we will definitely take some at the end. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, let's talk about Instagram because we can't skip over Instagram. I know Instagram is a favorite platform of most of my students and probably all of you. So Instagram, while it's owned by Facebook, is a completely different animal, right? It's super visual. Now again, here you see Sarai. Now you've seen Sarai in Instagram, you've seen her on LinkedIn. Sarai is still Sarai wherever she goes, okay? She is always on brand. She doesn't always use exactly the same words, but you always know that this is Sarai Perez and what she stands for. So here, you can see how beautifully she's curated this because she is a designer. You can see that she's an athlete, right? You can see that she is a model, and she talks about, the fact that she really cares about her Caribbean heritage. So this is how she is strutting her stuff and really making her personal brand apparent, okay? Now on Instagram, obviously, you do more than strut your stuff. You have the opportunity to follow influencers, people who have the same passions that you do, whether they're industry related or not. It's also a place for you to spot trends, obviously. Okay, here is another Instagram profile for you to look at. Now, Pam Fujimoto, if you all don't follow her, she's a creative director, and she's really supportive of young people in the industry, and particularly people of a diverse background. So if you're not following her, I encourage you to do so. But I want you to see that even though Sarai and Pam are very different and at different points in their careers, you can see a similarity in their bios, right? It's pretty simple. They don't go on forever and ever. And the reason is because we all have the attention span of a gnat, right? So you want to keep it short and sweet, and you want to include the most important things, the things that really matter to you, the things that say who it is that you are, as she has done here. Now, one thing I want you to keep in mind on Instagram, sorry, my mouse is click happy, is that your grid of 6 or 9 images, if someone comes to your Instagram just looking to see who you are, what you care about, what your brand is, those first images are really important. So really think about that initial grid and what it says about your personal brand. Okay? So we went through a lot really quickly, but I want to leave a few minutes for questions. We talked about the importance of really being who you are. And the reason why you want to do that is you want to find your people. It attracts the right employers. And when you get there, you want to attract the people who you're going to want to work with, because people who have similar interests often produce the most work and you have the most fun doing it. And it also means that when you've got a group of people being who they are, you've got a bigger chance at having a diverse mindset, which produces the most innovative work. Now, I showed you 4 platforms. You do not have to be on all of these platforms any more than you don't have to be on TikTok. You don't have to be on Snap. Choose your platforms, but whatever platforms you choose, make sure that your personal brand that started with that elevator pitch translates to each platform, keeping in mind the purpose of the platform, the audience that is there, and what you can be doing. Using these platforms will really help you to build your brand. So I'm going to get out of this now and take some questions.
You know, the only thing I don't like about Zoom is you can't clap, because the students in your class, Rebecca, my God, that was, how lucky are they that they have someone who really knows their everything. You put the flavor and the spices into it. Your presentation was beautiful. Listen, at this point, I would have been so upset had we not been able to do that today. So thank you for being a part of this. And as you call this, the tricycle.
The tricycle, we're the tricycle. We have only one speed and it's fast, and one direction and it's forward.
Oh my God. So please, you guys ask questions, because I know you're getting, and you can stand up. You all can stand up. You don't have to sit down. I mean, as long as we can see your face, you can stand up, move around, because this is a lot of sitting. You know, we're all going to end up with Zoom hips.
Definitely. So I see some comments here. Thanks, y'all. I'm glad to see that someone said they never thought that Facebook was a place where you could get an opportunity for a job. I can't tell you how many of my students I've referred via Facebook and they've gotten jobs. And not just students, but people are getting hired all the time. Because think about it, all of us old people have our networks, right? And I know a ton of creative directors, ECDs, CEOs. I mean, almost anyone that you think of in the C-suite is probably on Facebook. We are our most trusted network, and we're talking to each other there. The alumni groups, I see someone else said their school posts jobs. Absolutely. So I would encourage you all, let me see what else. Any other questions, y'all? Or any questions?
You can just unmute yourself and we can try and.
Yep. You can jump in if anyone has a question or comment.
I have one messages are.
Okay, hold on. Hold on. So I'm going to go with Tim, and then I heard another cute little voice somewhere. Let's
Alexis.
Go with, okay, let's go
Hey,
with
Tim.
And then let's
I
go
actually
to.
cut off the chat. If someone from the chat want to go, I think I cut off the chat.
Say that again.
Basically, so in regards to Facebook, do you mean like your personal Facebook page, or do you mean like make a business page?
Nope, I mean personal.
Okay.
People really, honestly, employers want you to show up. This is a beautiful thing that's happened since I was working for agencies. Employers, and I always showed up as my real self, and it got me in trouble sometimes, but you know, screw them. You really want to show up as who you are, Tim, because employers want your whole self at an agency. And any employer that wants you to sanitize yourself, I got to be real with you. You don't want to work for them.
Gotcha. Wow, okay.
Okay.
I didn't know that at all.
Good question. Alexis? You're on mute.
Yo.
Hey.
So I've had a Facebook since I was 13 because I was a rebel and I wanted to be all cool. And I wanted to know, let's say at 13 years old, you start talking about, you know, like what's your favorite color and oh my God, this person and that person. Like, do you go back and like delete
That's a great
all
question.
of that, or do you just
question.
leave everybody to read your business?
Yep. So when I was working on Tide at Digitas, we came up with an idea which they didn't buy because it scared them at the time, called a social scrubber, which would have been perfect for them, right? And the idea was you don't want to like wipe out your personality, but you do want to like clean it up around the edges a little bit, right? So you want to tune it, I would say, but you never want to wipe out the essence of your personality. And So yeah, that would be my answer. Don't really scrub it clean, but give it a little sparkle.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? I'm curious, does anyone use Twitter? Can anyone raise their hand who uses Twitter? Yeah? Do you use it for listening or do you you tweet?
So I've used it mostly for listening, but I've started using it more to post as well this year. I think it's a great way to get your POV out there without going above like 280 characters, and I think it's improved my writing a lot as well.
That's one of my purposes.
Plus, I think you mentioned about LinkedIn, about conversations. I've been part of some amazing conversation because of Twitter, and I think Twitter is one of those platforms where you can not only be part of great conversation, but also connect with a lot of amazing people.
Great, good to hear it. So let's talk about LinkedIn for a second. Everyone, you need to have a robust LinkedIn presence. It is not enough to have an old low-res picture and that blue background, because employers, so you should spend as much time on your LinkedIn as you do on your resume. And as Jess was saying, you should update your resume frequently. Think of it as a constant work in progress. And you should always be adding additional experiences that you get. You all should have already added the fact that you're participating in the Ad Club Lunch and Learn Academy. You should have already added that you're part of the Growth Initiative. You should have already added that you're part of Save the Internships, okay? And you should also be not just liking conversations and articles, you should be resharing. Part of your brand building is showing that you recognize what's of value and what is not, and that you are taking the time to curate good content for the rest of your industry. That helps to build your brand.
That's great. Tanisha, you had a question. It was a little long and I think it's gone up. Do you want to ask that question?
Hello, I just wanted to say first off, thank you. I am a third year in college right now, and I've just kind of started thinking about my personal brand, so this came at the perfect time for me. But now that I know what I want to say, I know who I am, I know what my values are, how do I translate that in an aesthetic way, or are there some things to consider?
Great question. So Tanisha, are you a creative? Are you an account person, media?
I think I fall more into strategy.
Okay.
But for this internship, I'm doing media planning.
Okay. So first of all, there's a bunch of art directors and designers on this call, and I would connect with them, and I would ask them how to create something called a mood board. So if anyone's, we didn't talk about Pinterest because I know that's kind of far afield, but on Pinterest, you can create what's called a mood board, and you just grab, you know, colors and images and all the things that you want. And I would really recommend that you approach this the way that you would approach a strategy, right? Write yourself a strategy and, you know, think about what it is that elevator pitch is. And then I really recommend y'all collaborate, because you've got this incredible brain power together collectively. You know, Alexis is here, and I know other designers and art directors are here, and trade some services and have someone help you understand what a mood board is and create one for you so that you have backgrounds and photos of things that are collected in a folder for you that are your go-to, that you can there apply to all these different platforms. That's a really good question, Tanisha. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, thank you so much for that.
This
You're
has
welcome.
been wonderful, you guys. And even with all this, I mean, we're so lucky to have had Rebecca and Kevin and Maggie and Jessica on the call today. But even that has its limits in terms of what we're doing sitting down. And so I want you all to go out and smell the fresh air for a second before you do the next thing you have to do. I don't know what that might be. This has been an amazing session, Lunch and Learn. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Thank you, guys. If there are any questions, again, we will be sending out a recap with all of this information on how to get in contact with everyone, stay in contact, and yeah. I think
I just uploaded the personal branding PDF. If anyone wants to grab it now, you're welcome to. Otherwise, I'm sure the ad club will send it out for you.
Also, one more note. If you were an ad club, right, Lunch and Learn, homeroom student, and you haven't put your profile on Rebecca's Save the Internships New York, you need to fill out that, that link that I shared with you all to get your information up on the website, because as you can tell, she knows a few people and they're looking.
Only a few.
Just a few. All right, guys. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. See you all later tonight.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.